Thank you for having me here today. I am going to talk to you about STEM education in Mexico, the opportunities that we have for educational change that can lead to national prosperity. Mexico's history is as divergent and rich as the culture and diversity that presently stands in its wake. Similarly to the U.S., the geographical region that the present day country occupies was inhabited by many peoples before the European conquistadors arrived. The Mayan and Aztec civilizations were of the most advanced of their time, enjoying prosperities from advances in adequate aqueduct systems, and innovative farming practices. Indigenous civilizations in Mexico were largely and grotesquely dismantled with the arrival of the Spanish conquistadors, who ruled for the next 300 years. In 1821, the War of Independence ushered in the modern age of Mexico. Due to the history of conquest of indigenous peoples, the geography of Mexico, and the approximation to the U.S. border, Mexico is generally thought of as having three distinct regions that carry their own economic levels and cultures. Now, I would like to share with you a short history of education in Mexico and the current educational status of Mexico. The 500-year-old educational system in Mexico reflects the societies which they represented or continue to represent. The modern Mexican system includes preschool, primary, secondary, preparatory, and higher postgraduate programs and degrees. In the 1990s, the Mexican educational system was federalized, and in 1993, the Mexican Constitution was amended to call for obligatory education at the secondary level. During this time, there was a decentralization of national education, and education began to look more like the U.S. systems with state and local control. In 2012, compulsory education in upper secondary schools for all children by 2020 was mandated. This has not yet been fully realized, especially in marginalized rural regions. At the university level, there are generally two paths that students can take. One is more of a humanity-based general bachelor's path, and the other one is a technical or professional path, which provides opportunities to work with lab practice and in industries and in the social services. From 2012 to 2018, President Peña Nieto sought to raise standards for hiring and evaluation and promotion of teachers, but was met with resistance from Mexico's powerful union, most particularly the SNTE, which was repeatedly charged with corruption. New evaluations for teachers decreased enrollment at public teacher training colleges, as well as increased many requests for retirement. Students in Mexico are not achieving at rates comparable to other countries in the OECD. According to PISA results in 2018, only 1% of students in Mexico performed at highest levels of proficiency in at least one subject, and 35% of students did not achieve a minimum level of proficiency in all three subjects: mathematics, reading, and science. These performance trends were observed over a period of rapid expansion of secondary education. Between 2003 and 2018, Mexico added more than 400,000 students to the total population of 15-year-olds eligible to participate in the PISA test. The proportion of 15-year-olds who were covered by PISA samples increased from about 50% in 2003 to 66% in 2018. And it is likely that this expansion in educational opportunities dampened a more positive trend in student performance. In Mexico, additionally, it was found that socioeconomic status was a strong predictor of performances in all three subjects. In higher education in Mexico, we see a trend for the number of tertiary students in Mexico to grow to be in the world's top 20 by 2035. Yet, as we stand in 2018, students in higher education in Mexico ranked 46 out of 50 in the subjects of reading, math, and sciences. In 2018, Mexico elected a new president, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, otherwise known as AMLO. AMLO is a leftist president who has pledged a revolution that will peacefully end crime and violence. In education in particular, he has vowed to build 100 new universities and eliminate entrance exams to increase access to all students. Further, teacher evaluations will be overseen by the National Coordinator of the Professional Teaching Service of the Secretariat of Public Education, otherwise known as SEP. To this day, the jury is still out on if that is working, and the COVID crisis has stalled many efforts in educational reform in Mexico. It is clear that within the schools of Mexico, there is a dearth of STEM curricular education and facilitation. The fundamental reason for this is due to a lack of consistent curricula and standards in Mexico in general. So while Mexico has seen tremendous growth in secondary and tertiary attendance, STEM education has not experienced the same growth trajectory. What is happening with STEM programming in Mexico, however, is gaining speed in interest and audience. Nonprofit organizations, university partnerships, and corporate-funded programs are prevalent through Mexico and offer a collaborative spirit to learning and making with STEM. For example, Barbara Yarza represents a maker nonprofit called El Garaje. El Garaje works with education and industry to promote STEM and STEAM learning. Licks.co is another group that's K-12 focused and brings STEM education into the classrooms of Mexico. There are also groups in Mexico dedicated to professional development for teachers in STEM and STEAM programs. For example, the Facebook group Makers Mexico and Movimiento to STEAM, another nonprofit group. The makerspace movement in Mexico is fairly new, starting in 2015 in Mexico City. After this time, makerspaces did start to pop up all over Mexico City, and also in other areas, such as in some schools in Santa Cruz and other cities, such as in Pachuca and Hidalgo. While the movement is still small, the public makerspaces are popular gathering spaces. There's also an interesting effort to get making into tourist communities in Mexico, where locals could become autonomous and the communities could become self-sustaining in the fabrication trade. Currently, there are 35 fab labs and hacker spaces operating in Mexico, many in the northern and central industrial cities. And the southern regions are underrepresented by comparison with maker spaces, fab labs, and hacker spaces. Computer science is a different story in education. Recent policy in Mexico calls for teacher development in these STEM-related subjects, and most specifically among them computer science. However, there's no national teacher certification or educational standards in Mexico. 61% of students do report using computers at school, and more than half of all disadvantaged students in Mexico have access to computers at school but not at home. And among all students in Mexico, about 1 in 3 only has access to the internet at school, and this is data from 2018. The barriers to innovation in Mexico, according to the Wilson Center at the Mexico Institute in 2018, speak to education, lack of training, and lack of technology. In education, we only see 17% of Mexicans holding a college degree and half of school children underperforming in math and science. There's a lack of training, and according to entrepreneurs, almost 20% of them say lack of training is inhibitive to innovation. Also, lack of technology continues to be a problem in Mexico, and less than half of the households in Mexico have access to the internet. Teacher education and training is lowest among many countries in Mexico. And that is something to consider as we consider building an educational system that provides adequate STEM education and STEAM education in an effort to promote innovation in Mexico. In light of the historical and current climate of education today in Mexico, I make these recommendations to you, the Secretariat of Public Education in Mexico. Mexico is a country of rich and diverse heritage. Today, we live in a global world rife with troubles, but we also live in a world where people are finally embracing the idea that embracing diversity adds a depth of knowledge and perspective to any pursuit. Mexico is no stranger to innovation. Perhaps at this time, the pursuits that lead to innovation should be of focus to help unite the people of Mexico through gains in the tech and manufacturing sectors, leading to economic stability. If STEM education is facilitated effectively, it has tremendous potential to do just this. In the last few years, Mexico has experienced massive educational reforms with a clear focus of improving education in all aspects. Despite political party, the public or private sectors, STEM education is clearly an avenue that Mexican citizens and their government agree is important to the revitalization of the educational system. In effort to boost innovation, manufacturing, and ultimate economic gains in Mexico, incorporating STEM education into the very fabric of innovative curricula, in my recommendation, should be your focus. This is an exciting time in the Mexican educational system, and it's a great time to become innovative in the way STEM education in Mexico is conceptualized. I urge you not to adopt the current standards or curricula of other countries, specifically the U.S., but to embrace the STEM movement as it stands in Mexico. This will enable Mexico to become leaders in innovative educational STEM practices. Steps to doing this include rewriting educational standards that allow for inquiry, critical thought, and making to become a major focus in all classrooms. Harness the imagination and ideas of the current universities, nonprofits, and corporations that are already teaching STEM in meaningful ways in order to develop such standards and assessments in curricula. Create a merit-based pay structure for teachers who will become trained and implement pathways to achieving success in the implementation and assessment of STEM programming in the classrooms of Mexico. And finally, consult the needs of the individual regions of Mexico before dedicating funds to hardware and software purchases that will be used in STEM education, as to not waste resources that are not properly allocated or aligned based on a lack of understandings of local needs and desires. Thank you for considering my proposal for reimagining STEM education in Mexico.